performing arts in middle school and high school.
Okay.
So um, it was it was important school. So we're taught your scales and your modes and all of these things at a very young age. And so when 10th grade came around and I picked up bass, I just took the theory knowledge that I knew from trumpet over to bass. I just needed to know how to navigate on the instrument.
Interesting.
So for those 2 years, I just took my bass everywhere. I took it to choir rehearsals. I took it to church. I took it to jazz gigs. I sound terrible, because I was trying I was trying to figure it out, But I was in high school, so I didn't have anything else to do but practice, So that's what I did for those 2 years, and that was the main thing that I was playing, bass and drums. And trumpet kind of took a back seat, around that time. Um, and if you know anything about playing any kind of horn, specifically brass, if you stop playing for a week, you're going to need at least 2 3 weeks to get your chops back.
Right.
So it just got away from me, and I ended up not playing for like a year. And I was like, you know what? I'd rather just teach or just write out horn parts for people, because I had a nice I had a nice little run on trumpet, from middle school and high school. Um, but bass was the main thing that I was doing at that time, so that's why I went to Berkeley for bass. And the cool thing about Berkeley is you can play multiple instruments there. You can major in multiple instruments. You don't have to be just it doesn't have to be just one instrument at Berkeley. You can play multiple instruments there. While I was at Berkeley, I did play drums on a lot of the recitals. I did play drums in the studio sessions. Of course, I played bass and drums. Um, and piano is just mandatory. Um, your piano is just mandatory at any performing arts school, that you know at least the basics of it, and that was that. You know.
Well, do you think then, because your bass playing is very melodic,
Hmm.
how much of that is influenced by your trumpet licks? Because one famous guy told me this. He said, if you want to be a good keyboard player, listen to singers, listen to horn players, so you can hear certain riffs and hear certain things that they're doing, and then take those things and insert it into your style, which makes you sound different.
Absolutely. If you want to be melodic, then you want to study instruments that focus on the melody. So
Right.
that would be the voice or brass or woodwind
Right.
or strings or things like that. Um, Especially where bass is, bass has evolved so much where um, it's not just the foundation, depending on what style of music you're playing. It's a melodic instrument.
Right. Right.
And to answer your question, yeah, playing trumpet or having that knowledge and hearing those different instruments in that range helped me a lot in how I approach, especially my soloing.
Mm.
You know, learning how to solo. I don't listen to bass players. I listen to piano players or saxophonists or trumpet players or guitarists. I might listen to bass players for a bass perspective.
Right. Right.
Like so. For example, my most recent video of me playing tutu. That when I was playing that, I was in the mindset of Marcus Miller. Because that's who originally did the song. Actually, I think he wrote the song.
Right.
So I was in the mindset of him in the beginning part of my solo, and it's a bass type solo, grooving, very, it's still melodic, but it's it's in the range of bass. I want to say Marcus Miller said it. He was saying that if you're gonna when you're writing music, you write for your instrument. You know what I mean? So if I'm writing for my bass, I'm not going to play a bunch of bebop lines. You know,
Right.
I'm going to play bass lines. You know what I
Right.
mean? That for that bass players can play along to. You know, I may solo more melodically, but the meat of the song is going to be for bass.
Right.
So,
Everybody has a mentor.
mhm.
As you know, I have talked to you on number of occasions about different things I had questions about, and of course, you gave me good info. Some of the stuff you told me to buy, I actually went out and purchased it,
Mhm.
and it's been working for me.
Good, good.
Who is Justin Reigns' mentor or mentors?
Man.
If you feel
Ooh.
free calling the names.
Yeah.
Or,
No,
maybe.
I don't mind. Jeez. Today,
Mhm.
I can't think of many today.
Mhm.
Growing up, and I've talked about this before in an interview. The late Don McNeil. He's from my hometown. Like a lot of my hometown heroes were my mentors. Those are the ones that that set that set a foundation for me. You know, mentally, musically. You know, people like Ronnie Biggs, Keith Moncrief, the late Don McNeil, um, Rodney Williams, like people that were from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You know, one of my biggest inspirations and mentors at that time was a guy named Alonzo Smith, and he was a part of the reason why I play as many instruments as I do, because I watched him do it. I watched him pick up the bass and kill, and then go to the keys and kill, and then go to the drums and kill, and I would just sit in rehearsals and just watch him. I would just sit beside him and watch him. I would carry his bass whenever we went to gigs, and I just watch him and just absorb his style, his mannerisms, his character, and like how he played, his aggressive nature. Yeah, that was a lot of my mentors were people that were readily accessible to me growing up. And then as I got older, it just became my peers. My peers. I would learn. We would all learn from each other. You know what I mean, and kind of pour into each other at the same time.
Cool. Last question before we go. Just have you play something. I don't know what I'm gonna try to keep up with you, but your gig. Yeah, I mean not your gig, your gear.
Mhm.
You play MTD exclusively
Yes.
and GK
Mhm.
exclusively. Why?
Okay. So MTD. So I remember being in college and I was looking for a bass. My very first bass was a Yamaha BBG 5-string, a passive Yamaha bass. So it was like the Nathan East model, but passive.
Mhm.
And that was the bass that I went to Berkeley with. That was like my first, semi-professional bass.
Right.
And I asked my mom for it because it was blue with black stripes. I knew nothing about tone. I didn't know anything about wood combinations. None of that.
Right.
I just liked the way it looked. And my mom got it for me in high school, and took it to college. And I knew it was time for me to get a better bass. I'm at Berkeley. I'm around people that got $10,000 Federas and all kind of stuff, and they sound terrible. Not the bass, the people. like,
Wow. Okay.
like, why do you have a $10,000 bass but you
And
can't
something
play
like
it?
that.
Never
Yeah.
mind. But I knew it was time for me to upgrade my bass,
Mhm.
and my mindset then, I didn't want a Fender because everybody had a Fender.
Mm.
I did not want a Ken Smith because everybody knew what a Ken Smith sounded like.
Okay.
I didn't think it was very versatile. And to this day, I still don't think it's very versatile. It's a great sounding bass, but I don't think it's very versatile.
Gotcha.
Um, and I remember I was like leaning towards a Warwick, the Warwick Thumb to be specific. And I loved the tone, but I did not like the feel because the neck was super heavy and the body was small, so it was unbalanced. So if it was just sitting here, the neck would just
Tip over.
like tip over like this.
Right.
Um, and I remember I was 16. No, no, I was 18, 17, 18, and I went to GMWA. That's the Gospel Music Workshop of America, for you all that don't know. And Andrew Goucher was the producer and the leader of the youth department.
Killer bass player.
Amazing, the Godfather, and he was in charge of the youth.
Right.
And the late Tim Robiz, that's where I met him when we were teenagers. And Tim was playing MTD, and then Andrew Goucher was playing MTD. And I just remember, I was playing drums, and Andrew Goucher was playing bass, and I was just I'm like, this sound, I'm in love with that sound. That sound is crazy. So get to Berkeley, and Tim had like 4 MTDs in his room, and I remember asking him to use one, and when I picked it up, it just felt natural in my hands. It just felt good. I'm like, okay, I don't feel like I'm fighting the bass. It's not even plugged in, and it makes me want to practice.
Mm-hmm.
So I went online. I got my refund check, and I went online to Bass Central, basscentral.com. It's a bass store down in Florida, and they had a brown MTD.
Oh, just like that one, huh?
Just literally just like this one, 6-string, and I bought it because it was brown and it matched my skin. Because everything else was like purple and green and yellow. It was like these neon colors, but this one, I liked it because it matched my skin color. I didn't know anything about wood combinations. I didn't know anything about how it would sound. I just bought it because I liked how it looked. Fast forward, I bought it, and when it came to the mailroom, it was literally like Christmas. And I took it. In Berkeley, there was a place called the Media Center, and that's kind of where everybody hung out in between classes.
Right.
And I remember I went to the Media Center, opened up the box, took the bass out, and I was just playing it. No amp, no nothing. Just straight out of the box, I just started playing it. I'm like, it makes me want to go to my room and practice. And I've been with MTD ever since. And I want to say shortly after that, Terrence Palmer was going to the NAMM show in 2005 or 2006, 5 or 6. Terrence was like, "Hey, have you ever been to NAMM?" I said, "No, I haven't. I don't even know what that is." He said, "If I get you out there, could you take care of yourself, food and all that stuff?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Okay, cool. You're coming." So that would be one of the main mentors. I take that back. So Terrence Palmer, because he's the one that passed the baton with the Israel gig. He's the one that gave that to me.
That was after Fred Hammond, Radical for Christ.
Yeah.
Got you. Right.
But Terrence, he took me to the NAMM show, and that's when I got to meet Mike Tobias. And I got to meet the guy that made my bass and the sound thing, and then we just created a relationship, and I've been there ever since. Now, GK is kind of funny because before I've been with GK for over 15 years now, and before joining GK, I didn't like it, and then because I didn't know much about it, I only knew what Guitar Center had,
Gotcha.
and there was nobody there that really knew how to explain um, what the gear did. No
Mhm.
one could explain like, oh, this is what this knob does. This is what this
Right.
controls. You
Right.
know. So I was always like overloading the amp, and it was always distorted. So I remember. So I used to be endorsed by Dean Markley Strings, and it's an umbrella called Artist Relations. So that's like Moog, Dean Markley, GK, you know, all these different companies under one Artist Relations. And we had like a little get together, and I asked the other people from Galley and Kruger. I was like, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like it. Make me like it. You know, they're like, okay, well, what do you typically use? And at that time, I was using David Eden.
Mhm.
Before they changed everything, you know, they changed manufacturers and they changed the way they make it. But I was using David Eden, and he just made some minor adjustments to actually this head, the 1001 RB. He made like minor adjustments, and I played, and I was like, oh, okay, show me more. And then they kind of like broke down the specifics of the head to me. Um, and the more they did that, the more I began to fall in love with it. And then on top of that, I had to go on tour with Israel. We were going. It was Israel Houghton and New Breed and Chris Tomlin. We were doing like a 3 month stadium tour, and and I needed gear support, and I remember going to Aguilar and was like, hey, and I really didn't like Aguilar. I was just going to do it because they had a presence around the states. You know, there's Aguilar at pretty much every backline company. But they didn't get back to me. I reached out to GK, and they got back to me immediately. It was like, the rig that you're requesting, this person is using it right now, but as soon as they're done, I'll have it shipped over to your rehearsal. And I've never had an issue. Never had an issue. Everywhere in this world that I have gone, there has been some kind of GK head amp there, some kind of support. I remember when I let them know that I was doing Alive in Asia, that was 7 countries in Asia. And they called me maybe like 2 weeks before we were leaving the States and was like, hey, just want to let you know you are set in every single place that you go. This is what you're going to have here. This is what you're going to have in Tokyo. This is what you're going to have in Malaysia. This is what you're going to have in Singapore. And I was like, oh, yeah. The tour support is incredible. The artist relations support is incredible. Anything that I need, and I'm very low maintenance when it comes to gear. If I don't need it, I'm not going to request it. You know, anything that I do have, I'll buy it first before asking the company to give it to me. Um, but I've been with GK ever since. Built a very strong, great relationship with Forrest and Bob, and it's what I love the most about them is that it doesn't color the sound. I, I feel like it's a great marriage, MTD and GK. But I also feel like certain amps and certain basses have a good marriage. I think Fenders and Aguilar have a good marriage. I think they sound good together. But as an exclusively MTD player, GK is my go-to.
I've been rocking with GK for about 12, 13 years myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it because it's clean
Yeah.
and the punch.
Yeah.
And like you said, I've never really had a problem with my rig or any other rig I've worked with.
Mm-hmm.
So I know everybody wants to hear you play. So while you think about what you're going to solo
Oh man.
and do something, I'm going to get to my next question. I'm going to give you time to think about it. And it's a good one because at any given time, you can be on the road with Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Then you jump off and you can rock Neo like that gig you did for me.
Mm-hmm.
You had Neo the next day.
Yeah.
So this is the question for food for thought.
Mhm.
How do you retain all that information and just keep up with all of those changes, those hits, those licks? Because those concerts I see you on, bro, it's like, how do y'all remember all of that stuff and still come back around, kill a Sunday service, and go right back out? You can tell me that later. Because I know that there's got to be, there's some charting involved, I guess. But I want to know how you keep up with that and just murder it every time.
You know,
I'm going to get to the track in the meantime.
there's for me, there's no charting involved. I can chart it out. I My retention is very good. I have a very it's excellent actually. I have a very excellent sense of retention. Um, and I like to factor it to the way that I grew up. And I remember when I was starting to learn bass and I was listening to records and learning the different bass players on the records and learning different stories. One of those bass players was Maurice Fitzgerald, and during uh, a particular era, Maurice was on everybody's album. He was on CC's album, CC Winans album, John P. Key, Fred Hammond, the choirs in Chicago, and he was on. You heard him, Larry Trotter. You heard him on everybody's album. So that was who I studied for a while. Um, and then I would like hear stories about how his retention. He would go in the studio, and they would play a record once or twice, and he would have it and then knock it out, like it was nothing. So, I like to think that the way that I used to learn music, whenever a new CD came out, I would learn the entire CD, and then I would put the CD away, and then I would learn another CD, put the CD away, and I just got into the habit of just learning music. And when you're doing that, you kind of find what helps you to learn music quickly, and then also remember it. All music has a format. There's an A section, there's a B section, and sometimes there's a C section. And you have to find a way to kind of figure out what is what. Um, one of my mentors when I was younger, Keith Moncrief, he used to make us learn everything. Don't just come to rehearsal learning your part. Learn everybody's part. I want you to know what the keys are doing, the drums, the guitar, the bass, the soprano, the alto, the tenor. I want you to be able to teach everybody's part. You don't have to be able to play everything proficiently, but be able to teach everybody's part. So that forces you to listen beyond your own part, which helps you to retain what's going on. And over time, kind of putting myself in situations, because I remember being in high school playing with 5 different groups at one time. I remember there was a gospel event, and I was playing for like 4 of the 5 opening acts. I was playing drums for 2 of them, and I was playing bass for the other 2. So I was like jumping off the drums, going to the bass, jumping off the bass, going to the drums, going back and forth with different sets in my head. And that became my normal. You know what I mean? So, and as I got to college, it continued. I would do a Broadway session, and then I would do a rock session, and then I would do a 70s session, and then I would do a gospel session, and then I would do a Latin session, and then I would do this. So, and then my homework, I had to do this, and I had to do this. So I just kept making it a part of my everyday life. So that was how I did things. And then getting into a more professional side, getting into touring and stuff like that, I brought that up. I brought that over to I brought that over to that style. So that whenever I listen to something, I only need to hear it once or twice, and then I've got it, and then that's that, and yeah, um, and yeah, it is what it is. And when I try to teach it to my students, because I'm a product of my environment. Like that was my environment growing up. Next song, next artist, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You know what I mean? That was my environment. So people today that want to learn how to work on their retention, one of the things that I typically say is like read a book. You know what I mean? Think about when we were in school, we read a book and then we had to write a book report. We had to let someone know what that book was about. So strengthen your mind, strengthen your retention from reading something and then telling somebody about it. It's the same thing with music. So when you're listening to music, you're literally telling somebody about the music you just listened to, or you're telling yourself, this is what I'm remembering about this song. This is the A section, this is the B section, and so on and so forth. Our brains are so powerful and we only use that much of it. You know what I mean? So, taking things that are non-musical to help strengthen the musical portion of our brain. If we're trying to remember something, read a book. You think about when you're driving somewhere, especially men. Whenever we drive somewhere, we look at landmarks. We only need to go there once, and then we know how to get there. Forever. You know what I mean? And for us, it might be a safety thing. You know what I mean? But we're triggering that in our brains to remember directions. Music, bring that thing over to music. Whenever you're listening, whenever you're learning music, of course, learn your part, but listen to the things that make the music. If you're doing the same four chords over and over and over again, the only thing that's going to differentiate this part from this part are the lyrics. What are the lyrics? You know what I mean? If you know what the lyrics are, what are the different inflections from the first verse to the second verse? You know what I mean? What is it? What's the intense, the intensity of the vamp? If the vamp is the same, you can kind of tell as it gets more intense. It gets more intense. The vocals invert. It gets more intense. You know what I mean? So listen beyond what you have to learn with your part.
That's good because dynamics are so important.
Absolutely.
Placement is important. Rests are important. The whole 9 yards. Well, I'll tell you what, man. I know that the folks online want to hear you play. I don't have any questions that I can see unless I missed it. Just do something, man, and then we'll see where it takes us.
Okay.
Quick question. Can I pop cam 1, 2, and 3 on at the same time?
No. You can split them.
How do I split the 2?
Hold on. I think you'd have to go over to the right. It's all on you, Justin. Just do what you got to do.
Make sure I'm in tune.
I wanted to. We're gonna do an old church classic, and I'm gonna see how you gonna kill this, Justin.
Okay.
Oh, give thanks.
Okay.
To the Charleston.
What key? B flat?
A flat. A flat.
A flat? Okay.
Oh, give thanks. No, that's B flat.
No, I'm just making sure that was it coming, was it the mic or was it the room? 'Cause, you know, because sometimes when, I'm gonna do this. So if you're if you're on the live, go stay on it. Stay on Roper, ROPERRF on the live. I want to hang up mine so to make sure that the signal is going direct and it's not coming from the phone thing. But we're still on. But stay on. Go to Roper, ROPERRF to finish watching the live. Okay, there we go.
That MTD is so punchy, boy. It's beefy, man.
Oh, let's see. So this like the EQ one here for the bass, I would turn all this down.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, the lows. Yes. Bring that down.
Everything is kind of flatlined.
Somebody don't like you. They have no keys turned up. Said there was no keys in the mix.
Oh.
There we go. Is there a compressor on
the
any?
mix?
Yeah,
On the mix or on the?
on the mix.
Yes, I think so.
There is. You can take it off. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it off and then save that scene.
But it's different for like everybody's everybody's bass is different. Like I know when I play, some people need the compressor so that because whenever they play in certain areas, it helps to even out the notes whenever they play. I already play that way, so I try to play that way. And then my bass, like a lot of Mike's basses, I don't know what it is about the wood combination or how it's made. It almost seems like it has like its own little built-in compression, just on how it's made, where you don't need too much. But there's some basses out there, yeah, that do need, need some love. Need some love in the compression area, and some EQ love. So it all just depends on what you need or what the sound you're going for.
Okay, man.
Cool.
Thank you. Trying to get the sound right.
Yeah.
You've been messing with some samba type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on your feed, and I don't know if you want to play a little bit of it. We'll try to see where you are, but what's going on right now with Justin Raines with that energy or that vibe? Is it something that you're working on? That's now your new practice session? You're digging into that more? What's the deal?
Actually, so on one of the most recent videos is I was playing a snippet of a cover of this artist named Tony Sukar. I think it's Tony Sukar, and he this particular album he takes like Michael Jackson tunes and turns them into salsa, and so that song was Blame It on the Boogie. Like if you listen to the whole song, even if you don't know Spanish, you'll know the melody. Yeah. So I just posted like the vamp, where like what most salsa tunes are like known for, that minor kind of vibe, and where it's just bass and percussion and horns, like that's the entire vibe. And so he was doing a show here in Atlanta at City Winery, and originally his bass player wasn't able to make it, so he was looking for somebody to fill in for his bass player, and I was recommended by a trumpet player here in Atlanta, but they needed a video. They needed a video because I didn't have a Latin last name. I'm black, I'm a black guy. So, and I don't have anything online of me playing salsa, specific like authentic salsa. And so they asked me to just make a video, for the artist, and they loved it and everything. But then the bass player was able to actually make it to Atlanta for the show, so that was a good thing. So he can definitely be comfortable, So he was able to do the show here, but I had the video in my phone, so I just. You just posted it, and my fans that are that are of Latin descent are like, I never thought I'd see the day that Justin played salsa. Did I see him play salsa? A lot of people don't know that. Most of the things people see me post, most recently is some jazz things, and they're like, oh my gosh, he plays gospel and he plays jazz. So it's kind of hilarious to kind of see these comments, because I've always played every style of music. Is that people only see me playing gospel, they only see me playing R&B. But I've done a lot of shadow work, where I've played multiple styles of music. It's based on whatever the client needed, and that plays a big part in my ear development and how I play and being able to be a chameleon, because I've had to be a chameleon. And like a quick like testimony on how that just kind of pans out. Before 2019, the year before the pandemic, I got a call to be the backup bassist for the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And yeah, exactly. So like when I and it was through Facebook, so I thought it was fake. They reached out to me through Facebook, like, hey, we want to know if you want to audition, to be a part of the backup band. We're trying something different this year. So I reached out to my best friend Carlin. I reached out to him, was like, hey, I just got this message from the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. He called me because I texted him. He called me. He was like, bro, do you know who that is? He said, I was like, oh, that's the Christmas rock band. I was like, oh, I've been listening to them for years. So I was like, okay, well, how'd they get my information? So I thought it was fake. I thought it was hoax, because I'm like, I don't have anything of me playing progressive rock online anywhere. And I literally thought it was fake because it was through Facebook. I don't check my Facebook Messenger, and I just happened to. And this is how I knew it was real. I knew it was real when they said, okay, we're going to pay you to audition. We're going to pay you your day rate to audition. We're going to give you per diem, get your hotel, get you a rental car. Because I had to get back home and do like a BET event. He was like, okay, so we'll put you on the first flight so you can make it back home to your gig. Like, that's when I knew it was real. And when they sent me the W-4 information, I said, oh, okay, this is no hoax. This is for real, for real. And I did the audition, and it was such a cool audition. You know, the musical director, we ended up talking about our kids the majority of the audition. He was like, it's obvious that you can play, you know the songs. Okay, whatever. Let's go have some coffee. Let's go talk about our kids. And he went to Berkeley like 20 years before I did. So we talked about Berkeley. We talked about the city of Boston and stuff like that. And that's how we connected. And they called me maybe like 2 weeks later and was like, hey, everybody loves you. You're going to come in for rehearsal. So, and it's a good thing that I didn't end up playing with them, because that would mean that something happened to the bass player, because I was the backup. Yeah, yeah. So still had to rehearse. They rehearsed the backup band. It was really cool because the musical director made me the musical director of the backup band, you know, and it was so interesting culturally for me, because you got to think this is a multi-million-dollar production. Okay, so crew, there's like 300 crew. You know, because the rehearsal, because there's two bands. There's an East band and there's a West band. You know, so they can cover, you know, the entire country during the month of December. And so, but when we all rehearse, we're all in one big stadium. They're building a stage on this side of the stadium, and they're building the same exact stage on this side of the stadium. You know, because you gotta understand, once they get to the new city, they gotta rebuild the stage. So that's what this whole. I mean, pyro. The stage is humongous. If you've ever seen a Trans-Siberian Orchestra show, you know, the musicians could be flying in the air. The guitarists could be coming in from the top of the stadium, flying down. Like, it's serious. It's serious. So being a part of that, seeing that production, seeing it built from the ground up, and being asked to be a part of it. Like I remember, like, later on, I asked the recruiter. I was like, "How'd you even find me?" And I think she said like a YouTube video, and she liked my pocket. She said, "We loved your pocket. Had nothing to do with me playing progressive rock. Had everything to do with I loved your pocket." And yeah, and it just kind of threw me, because I'm like, out of the 300 crew, there's probably 5 black people. You know, out of the entire production, like there's like a handful of us. But when I tell you, I was treated so great. Oh my goodness, the love, it was the professionalism. Probably one of the best experiences that I've had musically. You know, and it was short lived, because the next year was pandemic. So yeah.
There is so much to unpack from what you just said. And a couple of things jump out at me. First, you talked about the samba tune.
Mm-hmm.
How much of your background did you have to dig into? How much prep you had to do? Because it's a different style, it's a different tempo. The patterns are not 2/4. They're kind of 1/3, 6/8 kind of patterns. Then you're talking about Spanish music, Latin music, samba music is just a different vibe. We talked about playing on the minors.
Mm-hmm.
How much did that kind of have to make you reprogram from the mundane, the routine of what we do? R&B gospel is kind of married.
For me, I have to make sure I preface that. For me, it's not that much, only because I took years to study certain styles of music. You know, when I was in college, when I knew that I had to play different styles of music, I didn't want to be the American trying to emulate other styles of music.
You're hitting something, bro.
I didn't want that because in gospel, that's what it is. You know, what I mean, you're going to hear somebody do a song and go to a Latin kind of vibe, and it's always the same thing. And you think it's Latin until you go to Latin America, and then once you go there, and
It's like when they do reggae music, but we'll
oh
talk
my
about
gosh,
that.
yeah, the same thing, same thing.
Oh
same,
man,
like
it's
oh my
embarrassing,
gosh,
man.
I remember a drummer, and I won't say his name. We were in Jamaica, and the drummer they had a live band at the resort, and the drummer let our drummer, sit in,
Yeah.
and he was just
I know where this is
and
going.
and the
bro.
drummer was like,
Yeah.
right there, stay there. That's it.
Mhm.
That's it.
Mhm.
That's it. You're doing too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to your point, like when I was with when I was with Israel traveling to like South Africa and Africa like every few months, I've been to Africa a lot. So every time we went to any country, I will always come back home with a CD. This is when CDs were still in. I will always like get a local CD, and I would bring it home and I would listen to it and study it. And specifically like West African rhythms, because West Africa is like the foundation of all of it, of Afro-Cuban, of Latin music. West African music is the mother of all of that. You know what I mean? You got people migrate. Slavery things. Take you from here to here to here. Africa is the foundation of all of it. And Africa is so like the continent is so huge. There's so much music there, like that. Probably nobody has really like tapped like the surface of just yeah. There's you might hear words like makossa. That's a certain style of music in Africa. And then there's different in South Africa, and then like I said, West Africa, East Africa. Like there's this. That's the foundation of it. And I remember just taking the time, and I still don't feel like I have it. Like I'm pretty close. I can fake it. You know what I mean?
Can you play maybe 3 variations off the style in Africa?
So the one thing about African music, and if there are African viewers and have grace, 'cause I'm African American, and but the bass is never really played in the low end a lot of the times. A lot of the time is it's somewhere in that vicinity, but it'll have a cadence. It'll have a beautiful cadence that goes throughout the song, and the bass players are killing it. Very melodic lines. Like you'll hear people play stuff like that. That's the American version of trying to, find. You won't hear them doing that, or if they do something, is a
There's some palm muting going on.
like it's syncopation and stuff like that, And then I studied a lot of soca music, I studied a lot of calypso, soca, and that takes a lot of discipline, because in soca you can play one. That's the bass line. It's just that. You gotta stay there because everybody's dancing. You gotta stay there. You can't move. So, so all that being said, I've spent time with African, I've spent time with Afro-Cuban, I've spent time with Latin American music to, and I have an appreciation for it. So I knew whenever I had to make a video for it, I said, oh, well, I know what to do. And so when I listened to the original record, I'm like, okay, it's like, so if this is the tempo here, the bass is going to go. So that's but like that's the foundation though, and but the bass player might switch it up, So it's very very rhythmic. You have to be in tune with the drums. And it's like you if you watch any bass player from Brazil and Puerto Rico, like those areas, their rhythm is impeccable. It's in whether they're just holding down the bass line or if they're soloing. It's just it's a part of their culture. So that's how I look at it. Because they look at us, especially like American gospel music. They look at us like, and they're blown away, and they're like, I want to do what you do. I'm like, did you just see what you did? You want to do what I do? So it's like, but it's a culture thing, because I can't teach you how to play gospel. You have to listen to it. You have to absorb it, and vice versa. You can't teach me how to feel that. I have to spend time with it. I have to sit down with the music and study it, not just the notes, but the feel, the inflections. How does it make me feel whenever I play it? And you gotta spend a good amount of time. You can't expect to listen to it for a couple weeks and then feel like you have the feel. You gotta put some time in, months, years, with a particular style of music. And where I knew that I was going in the right direction, I remember being in Trinidad, and I was with one time with Israel and one time with William McDowell. And one thing what Israel likes to do, whenever we go to a certain part of the world, he'll switch one of the songs to like their style. So we're in Trinidad, so it's like we're gonna do whatever song we were in. We were gonna switch it to like a soca, Caribbean vibe, and I would play it authentically, and then now you have like a bunch of bass players on the stage looking at me like, how do you know how to play our style? So that's when I knew, like, okay, all right, I'm in the mix. I'm on the right side. I'm on the right side of things. And yeah.
That was a good answer. I had a question that I didn't ask. You did an interview where you talk about the 3 simple priorities. I think you know what I'm talking about. Where you talk about studying your skill, and there were 2 other things you said. And you pretty much just alluded to that just now, because what you're pretty much saying is, if you're a bass player, then you need to be a bass player.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a conversation with a guy one time, and I said to him, if you got a jazz gig, he was a drummer. I said, would you be able to do the gig if the whole gig is just brushes, no sticks? And he's like, no, I don't think I could do that, man, because I'm not a jazz drummer. And my response to him was, what is a jazz drummer? And I remember repeating something someone told me, and I said, there's no such thing as a jazz drummer, a classical drummer, a reggae drummer, a pop drummer. We put labels on it to control it. There is just 2 kinds of musicians, a good one and a bad one. And if you're bad, you need to try to get good. And part of that is studying the different styles.
Absolutely.
And I always, the band members can tell you, I try to push them to, like, you know, let's do this song in Latin, let's do this song in jazz, but try to do it and to be authentic with
Yeah.
it, just like you said, take some time. Talk
Yeah.
to about studying your skill. When
Mhm.
you reherse, are you breaking it down in genres? This week I'm gonna listen to this, or are you doing everything based off a mood?
Today, excuse me. Today I'm doing things. Oh, sweet, thank you. Today I'm doing things like based off of mood, but thing is, I've put in the time over the years um, of studying, different genres of music. Okay, I got one. I got one. I've put in that time, and um, yeah, I've put in that time over the years. As I got older, that became a life principle. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And I would apply that, as a man, I would apply that to knowing how to change your brakes, knowing how to change your oil, knowing how to maintain your car, knowing how to do basic things, even if you don't have to do it, even if you pay somebody to do it, it's better to know how to do it. You know what I mean? So when it comes to applying that to music, I I apply a, I apply a lot of life things to music, because I do life with music. So that's why everything is either, hey, you want to be better at remembering things, read a book, you know. So um, using it's better to have it, not need it, than need it and not have it. It's with reading. I don't have to read. I know how to read very well. I can sight read, but most of the things that I do don't require me to. But if somebody says, "Hey, we got this TV gig. There's no rehearsals. Just show up. We're going to give you charts." Cool, I can do it. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready, because you never know when the call will come in our industry. You never know how it's going to come, especially with social media. Somebody can see you like, "Oh, I like that," and bam, you're on the other side of the country. you know. So it's yeah, and that's so going to your original question, excuse me, I think I just kind of take the time to work on things that I know that I'm not good at. You know,
Such as
um, like I want to say like I'm good at jazz. I just don't have the avenue to play it all the time.
do you play upright?
Yeah, I do.
Well,
I'm not.
read.
I'm not great at that at all. Yeah. I practice that as much as I can because I'm nowhere near where comfortable that I would. Now I've done gigs. I can do a gig now. I can walk you up and down the street. you know, but if you tell me to do a solo, it's gonna be real basic. My hands is gonna be hurting. It's a totally different kind of vibe and strength, and uh, your intonation has to be spot on because there's no frets.
Right. Right.
And the distance is a lot wider, to whereas on an electric bass, this distance might be a whole step. On an upright bass, this distance is a whole step. So, and then as you get higher up the fretboard, it closes up. So, it's a totally different thing. So, I'll practice those things. Today, I'm leaning more towards the solo route of things, like putting myself more out there as a solo artist. Um, Hence why like some of the videos that I've posted up of me actually playing or showing my range, because a lot of people don't see it unless you come to a local gig. You're not going to really see it because I don't really expose it or show it. I teach it to my students, but I have the vocabulary. I have it there. So practicing those things, and I have an appreciation for so many different styles. So like you said, like I may just wake up one day and like, I like this African vibe. Let me go ahead and listen to what's being played. or I like this Latin vibe. Let me listen to what's being played, or this reggae. Let me listen, and it goes beyond notes. You know, I have to dial in the right tone to get the right feel. You know what I mean? So that it's felt authentically. Like it's not just notes. It's everything that encompasses that. You know?
You mentioned content, and for the sake of time, guys, if you're online, you have, guys and ladies, if you have questions, please, pop them. I hope I can catch it before we jump off. But Roland, you got any questions? Tristan, you got any questions? Mm-hmm. The question is about flow and improvisation. For those that may not hear, my drummer Tristan had a question about flow and improvisation. Justin.
So improvisation to me is you telling a story. You know, it's what do I feel in this moment. So, and I revert back to the two solos that I just posted on my Instagram. The one with Continuum, I kind of let the song tell me where to go, and then I inserted my emotions from there, and it started, where like it, yeah.
Add the flanger to it, probably the
Which one? The middle one? We're close. We're close. So, I played that wrong. So if I'm soloing over that, my first chord is like play like an E major 7 chord. So in a jazz mindset, and so my mindset right now is is the Roku is the Roku thing. I'm looking at the city go by and I'm thinking, what would I play to that? So hmm Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. The atmosphere of the room helps me tell that story, and it helps me to kind of slow down. Because you're telling a story. You don't tell a story. I did this and I did this and then I'm gonna do this and then I'm gonna hear and then there. Like people are like, what? What do you? That's why people don't listen to bass solos now. So you gotta, yeah, it's too much going on. So when you capture them by just a simple melody, say something to them. Or play something that they might, know. capture the audience that way, and then you kind of flow from there. I tell people to kind of play from your own ability. When people think of soloing and improvisation, they feel like they have to match somebody else. They have to match whoever their inspiration is. You know what I mean? And their inspiration may be 10 times better than them and faster, and they feel like they have to play like that. Like, no, wherever your ability is, if you can only play that, then just stay in those notes. I didn't move from one. I'm just used the notes of the major scale. I did not move. You know what I mean? It's time, space, and rhythm. You know So that's my mindset in flowing and improvisation, if you will.
You mentioned social media.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to the pandemic, that has gotten completely out the roof.
Yeah,
Content is so important now.
yeah.
And while we're at it, listeners, J Raines 112.
Yes, sir.
J Raines 112 is his cash app. Please
Oh.
be a blessing. Sow a seed to my brother, because once again, this will be posted on the IG. I think we're YouTube live in too. So this can go on for days. This is a master class, not
Yeah.
just for music, but for life.
Yeah.
Speak to content. I have, thanks to you, kind of started getting into it a little bit more
Mhm.
deeper, especially since that conversation we had about the iRig Stream Pro.
Yeah,
And let me
yeah.
just throw a shameless plug. If you want something real quick, guys and girls, grab an iRig Stream Pro from my son at Sweetwater Music. His name is Jamal Smith. Shameless plug. He gonna hook you up, give you a nice iRig Stream Pro. You can hook it up to your phone,
Yeah.
take it wherever you go, get a good mix from an in-ear monitor, and we cooking with Crisco. What was I saying? Content.
Content.
You mentioned the Trans-Siberian, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Orchestra
Yeah.
that called you just because of a clip you posted
Yeah.
that had nothing to do with
Nothing to do with their style of music.
their style of music.
Yeah.
Speak to that a little bit. Give some advice to the listeners.
Mhm.
Like, you need to get you some content.
Yeah. So in today's world, it's your digital fingerprint. It's your resume. It's your electronic press kit. All the things that we needed, like before social media was what it is today. You needed an electronic press kit if you wanted to get an endorsement with a company. You had to put something together and show them. If you wanted to sign to a label, you had to have a bunch of stuff, lined up. Whereas today, if you're an artist, you can have the hottest song, but what's your reach on social media? I've witnessed that. I've witnessed people have amazing song. They can dance, they can sing, and the label was like, take about a year and get your following up and then come back. Yeah. So whereas where social media is today, because that was like 10 years ago when that happened, where social media is today, I mean, that's just what it is. Like, people are finding people based off of your Instagram, your TikTok, your YouTube, but each platform has a different has a different algorithm, and it has a different set of viewers. People on YouTube, that's long form content. That's where people go to to binge watch things. That's where they go to learn things in a longer format. That's where people, that's even more like an age range. There's a certain age range where people watching YouTube. And for content creators that are making money off of social media, YouTube is like our 401k because it's owned by Google. Where is Google going? Nowhere. So that video that you made 14 years ago, if you are monetized, it's still making money for you today. And it's going to continue to make money for you down the road. You know what I mean? Whereas TikTok, people, think about like TikTok trends, but when you go on TikTok, you are learning. People are teaching on TikTok. But it's short form. It's short, fast. And so when like if you're going to show something on there, show it. I mean, hit them as soon as they see your video. This is what we're talking about. Boom, 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 boom. This is how you do it. Bang, and then move on because people's attention span is super short on TikTok. Instagram is a little bit longer, and Facebook is for the older generation now. And that's so funny for me to say now because I was a part of the introduction of Facebook. I went to school in Boston, and Tom, not Tom, Tom was MySpace. Mark Zuckerberg, we're the same age, and Berkeley's here. Across the bridge is MIT. Down the road is Harvard. So I was a part of Facebook when it was just for Boston colleges. So yeah, the only way you can be a part of Facebook is if you had a Boston college email. You know what I mean? So Berkeley, MIT, Northeastern, Tufts, Harvard, like those schools, Emerson, those schools were the only schools that had access to Facebook until it grew, and then it grew to all colleges, and then it was just a college platform, and then they allowed high schools, and then it grew to what it is today. So being a part of it from when it started to now, it's like, oh, that's more of an older generation is on Facebook, but if you know how to work the algorithm, if you know how to work if you know how to work the algorithm, there are comedians that are making bank on Facebook and YouTube, like bank. if you know how to do it, and the thing is, don't overthink it. People that are listening, don't overthink content. You can use AI. You can literally ask ChatGPT, hey, I am an X, Y, and Z person. I am an artist. Can you and I need content for the next 6 months based on this style of music. Can you put it in this format so that I can understand it? And ChatGPT will give you your content for the next 6 months. And all you have to do is shoot it. That's it. And then again, once again, like don't overthink it, because if you're doing TikTok, you could literally just pick up your phone and record and then post it. You don't have to do all the editing and all that stuff. Just pick it up and post. You can do more of the editing on the Facebook and YouTube side. That's where you want to spend your time on the quality, that's coming through, because those viewers will view it just if it looks and sounds good. You know what I mean? They can care less what you're saying, but if your video looks good and the audio is coming through nice and clear, they'll at least take the minute to listen to you. You know what I mean? But TikTok is where pick up, record, and then go on. You don't have to worry about editing, none of that. Just put it up and go. And Instagram is like in the middle, in between the two, depending on your following. But it's, like I said, it's your digital fingerprint for musicians and artists. Have something up for people to see, especially if this is what you want to do. You want to be in the industry. That's where the guys are looking. They may not comment, they may not like it, but they're watching. You know the big wigs. They're watching. Your videos are coming across, or your videos are being suggested by other musicians, and they're watching them. You know what I mean? And if they like it, they're going to be like, "Oh, let me see if you got anything else. Let me see what else you got." You know, so have stuff available. It's like an up and coming producer. Let's say you make a smash hit, and it gets in the hands of like a Rodney Jerkins, and he's like, "Man, that's awesome. What else do you have?" Or like a Timberland. You know what I mean? Like, "Oh, that's man, that track is dope. What else you got?" You want to be like, "Oh yeah, I got a whole hard drive right here." You know what I mean? Like, boom, 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 boom. What you need? What tempo you want? Okay, I got you. What style you want? I got you. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So it all kind of connects, together. Um, but content, man, it's just disciplining yourself to just record it. You don't need a bunch. Like, we're blessed to have the top of the line gear, absolutely. But you don't need it, to get the job done. To start, you don't need it, you know. Um, just literally hit record and be yourself. Be yourself. I want to say that. Um, be your authentic self. That's what people resonate with. You know, don't be a copy. Be you, whoever you are, and you'll find your tribe. You'll find your audience. You know what I'm saying? Based on that.
Last question before you
Mhm.
play us out of here. I'm sorry. Yes.
Mhm.
You've won 4 Grammy Awards, rightly deserved. Scripture says, "Give honor to whom honor is due." And I'm just blessed to be your friend, your brother, for you to share the talent and the experience. I've learned a lot just listening to you. And real quick, if you can, before you play us out of here, because we got to go out and you got to give us something, as they say, one for the road. 4 Grammys. Can you talk to each of them?
um, was it? I think it was With Long Life. With Long Life. That was from the Deeper Level album with Israel. And I played synth bass. I played key bass on that record. That was, I guess, that was my first big record, really. And my first album with Israel. Me and Terrence Palmer split the album down the middle. Um, he did half, I did half, and one of the songs got a Grammy. Um, Jesus at the Center. I want to say it was Jesus at the Center of the song that won. Alive in Asia, that album won, and that one was probably like my favorite album that we did because of the amount of time that we put into it. We spent 2 weeks in LA rehearsing. The first week we had everything. So the second week it was just, we recorded. We pre-recorded some things just to kind of be safe. Like we're going over to Asia. We don't know what we're running into. We don't know what we're going to walk into. Thank God we didn't have to use the pre-recordings. Everything that you hear is from when we were over there live, and we so by the time we got to Asia, we knew the music so well, and it was just second nature. Now we're just capturing the moment, and that entire experience, it was a lot because it was like we were in Singapore for 3 days, then we went to the Philippines, Manila, and then came back. No, we went to Kuala Lumpur, then came back to Singapore, and then that's when we just did the run. We had to, we like just missed like typhoons and stuff like that over yeah, it was a great turnout, and for that to win a Grammy, that was pretty awesome. Um, and most recently, uh, I played on the Grammy One Hallelujah. I played on that with Tasha Cobbs, Israel, Jonathan McReynolds, Erica Campbell, and Jacqueline Carr. And that was last year. Yeah. So, Okay.
Believe it.
All right. All right.
Whatever the Lord puts on your hearts.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Justin Raines, the one and only, part two.
you.
Well, in the future.
Thank you for
Good
having
night.
me.
Love y'all.